Happy Halloween, guys. It's Dimitri, and today we're going to talk about wearing different hats. So typically there's a stereotype for every job. There's stereotype for every type of person. And a lot of times these stereotypes kind of dictate which careers we choose. And so let's just go through a few different careers and look at the stereotypes. So for people that work in finance, right, typically it comes to mind as like someone who's stiff, someone who's like an old white guy, someone who's like boring, someone that just does numbers. And at the end of the day, they're not like, it's not exciting. But on the flip side, right, you have people that think of finance and they think of like, oh, I'm going to be like this trader. I'm going to be the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm flashy. I'm exciting. And so then you have that stereotype, and that's the good version, I guess, versus the bad version. And so people will either say, yeah, I like finance because I like the good version of the stereotype, or no, I don't like it because the bad version of the stereotype. And then also if you look at like, for example, nursing, I always think of like, kind of like a woman. You never think of like a man. Someone who's wearing scrubs, someone who's usually nice and friendly and helpful. But again, like when I think of like Miss Kitty from that 70s show. And so kind of those are the stereotypes that might, pick whether you choose nursing, for example. And then the last example would be like tech. So when you think of tech, you think of like someone who's really nerdy, maybe you think someone that's exciting, something that's cutting edge, someone who's boring. Maybe you think of like men in general, like gaming guys that dress like a slob, have sweats on, zip up hoodie. And again, I think of like people like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, people like that. And so my point is that there's all these different stereotypes that go with different careers. And I think a lot of times, whether you're a student, whether you're in high school, college, university, whether you're, starting a career in the middle of a career and you're looking to change careers, a lot of times we kind of bucket ourselves and feel like, this is who I am as a person, and so I therefore have to do like these types of jobs. And I see this a lot with people who have like a bunch of friends that are all going into one area. So for example, if a bunch of your friends are all going into business, then typically I see people saying, oh, my friend's going to business, it fits my personality, I really like it because, and they list off a few different objectives. But a lot of times kind of you bucket yourself based on who you're around, who you hang out with, maybe what your family's done for a living for the past so many years. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think a lot of people fail to realize you can wear different hats. And so I just wanted to point out a few of my hobbies and different interests and more or less how I change hats a lot throughout the day, weeks, months. I'm always changing hats. And yet I don't feel like I'm a fraud, which a lot of people might think like, oh, you can't be like a professional business person and quantitative finance and be taken very seriously. And then be also into other hobbies like, for example, I'm into cubing. I love to cube. I guess that's still kind of nerdy. I read a lot of books, like Wealth of Nations is economics. I read Freud. I'm a big psychology kind of fan and buff in my free time, which a lot of people don't know. I build websites. I love CSS, HTML, PHP. I do a bunch of different like web design stuff, but also like the construction hat. A lot of you don't know, I actually worked construction for a long time. I love laying stone. I love working on cars. I love motorcycles. I'm a huge motocross guy. I raced motocross in high school. And yet the stereotype of someone who races motocross is typically not the classiest individual. It's typically blue-collar families, hardworking Americans, but again, they're not the classiest. They're rough, they're gruff. Motocross isn't really a sport of, I don't want to say, it's not a sport of those that are kind of like adverse to risk. It's risk-seeking guys that are out having a lot of fun. And again, a lot of you have seen like all the Red Bull, different events, the extreme sport athletes again, right? But then when you think about it, you're thinking like, I'm probably not imagining like a guy that works in finance who's kind of like stiff and uptight and just calculating numbers with some guy who's like on the weekends out tearing engine out of cars, rebuilding motorcycles and racing. And so my point is, just in general, this video is that you should be able to switch hats. Like when I go to work, I dress full suit typically. If not, I always make sure I have like a vest, a jacket on, even if it doesn't match my slacks. But the thing is I change hats a lot, and and again, I want people to realize you can be different. You can switch hats frequently. You can get dressed in the morning throw on a tie, throw on a suit, get to work, be very quantitative. For example, I work in quantitative finance, do a lot of math, and then when you get home, for example, all of a sudden I switch hats and maybe I'm out in the garage tearing an engine out of a car, changing head gaskets, changing a CV joint and axle. And also this can even change even quicker. So I mean, like, I might have on like my business hat, my professional hat in the morning, and then all of a sudden I go to lunch with a buddy of mine, or I call someone up, you know, or I'm texting somebody, and like I switch gears and I'm in like a different mode. Like I have friends in different areas that have different hobbies, and so you meet people in different areas, and so you kind of put on your different hat. Like I put on like, you know, my gaming hat, and I'm like chatting with a buddy of mine about like, I don't know, new games that are coming out, and the new Nintendo that's debuting, and like, is it gonna make it? Is it successful? What are the new games on it? But again, you should be able to switch hats. And so really the moral of the story of this video is that you shouldn't bucket yourself. If you're looking for careers, try to find something that you really enjoy and are happy doing. But don't try to bucket yourself and think like, you know, I come from middle class America, I have X, Y, and Z, my family's done this for, you know, like the last 4 generations, and all of my friends are doing this other thing. For example, like maybe all your friends aren't going to college. But again, you shouldn't let that stop you. That doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you not you. And so you need to embrace the individuality of each person, but also realize you should be able to switch hats frequently. You should be able to have multiple personalities, and you shouldn't always fit yourself into stereotypes. Anyways, happy Halloween, and thanks for watching, and as always, until next time. Thanks for watching my video. If you find it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe.